Tuesday, September 3rd, 2013 meeting and public hearing of the City of Falls Church Planning Commission is now in session. Ms. G, please call the roll.
Mr. John? Mr. Meeks?
Here.
Mr. Rankin?
Here.
Ms. Rogers?
Here.
Ms. Teets?
Here.
Mr. Wodiska?
Here.
Ms. Hockenberry is absent this evening.
I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda, please. Boy, I feel like I'm down in a hole here.
So move.
Is there a
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm hoping there are no planning commission reports.
Linda's not here.
Okay. We'll move on to receipt of petitions. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on things other than are on our agenda? And since we have nothing on the agenda, if you would like to petition the planning commission, please raise your hand or step forward.
Okay.
Seeing no one. Mr. Snyder, do you have a planning commission, planning director's report?
Yes, just looking ahead, we're looking at 16th September to have some discussion moving forward with the Greenway Downs zoning ordinance amendment. A lot of work is going into it, including listening session. And also reviewing the comments we have to date down on the South Washington Street small area plan. Would mention on the 10th, the Human Services Commission wants to do a little walking tour of the South Washington Street area. Details of that. Prior to putting forward their recommendations. So that meeting on the 16th will primarily be work session.
Work session.
Discussion. We also have put together a new format, layout, if you will, of how the comp plan might be laid out. So this is more of a layout format approach. This would be designed so it would work with the web. So we can kind of share that with you as well. Also, as an update, as you know, we had some problems and issues with historic home, which there was
Yes.
demolition that occurred by the property owner. A stop work order was put in place. We are looking internally at other things we can do. Things we've done immediately are to have a final sign-off on any building plans with Deborah G., our staff person, being the final sign-off on that, so that we have we make sure that those final building plans are seen by the historic preservation staff person. And also we're looking at developing something where the builder and developer would sign a letter understanding that what is and isn't to be done as a part of a historic house renovation or addition, so that there are no misunderstandings about the importance of retaining as much as possible the structure and the integrity of the existing building. So that's a work in progress, if you will, and we'll keep you posted as to how that goes. There was a HARB meeting, and we have, Deborah G. has put together detailed minutes of that meeting. That's an ongoing discussion, and we'll be keeping you informed as that moves forward.
Who's the developer? Who's the builder?
I can't recall the name of the builder that the homeowner had employed. I could get that for you. But,
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we can get that for you.
We did discuss that at some length and heard from the public at our last meeting. And one of the things that the Planning Commission discussed was possibly composing a letter to the City Council expressing our dismay and also possible steps that could be taken. And one of those steps was to strengthen the historic home ordinance. And so I think that that's something that we'll be working on in the next week or so. We do want to make sure that something permanent comes out of this, so that, and I know that signing off on plans is one thing, but if we put a little bit more teeth into the historic ordinance, I think that would be helpful too. So that's something that we're thinking about.
And I recall, as those of you who were involved in the ZOAC process, that was one of the recommendations
Yes.
among several that's on the list of possible changes. So appreciate your mentioning that, that we will be looking at more administrative things that we can do. But
Oh, good, yeah.
clearly, code issues are important as well to examine and to see what would be appropriate to prevent this in the future.
Yeah, I just have a quick comment. As a owner of a historic structure that's covered with all this, I'm a little bit sensitive to it, but I'm all for preventing what happening. It's still not clear to me if it was a failure in the ordinance or it was a failure in the process. So I would say, I'd be curious, I'd want to have more of a discussion about making the ordinance changed before we go suggesting that, if it's really just a process change or something like that.
And we will internally, with the city manager, be looking at kind of an after-action, how did this happen, you know, where are the missteps? Because it certainly was not something the planning commission or staff thought was going to happen. And how do we prevent anything like this from happening in the
Right.
future?
Melissa? No? Ross?
I also wanted to thank Gary Fuller and others on planning staff for their work while I was on leave. I know they did a really good job, and as many of you know, there's never not a busy time in the little city, and so I wanted to personally thank them and the other planning staff for their efforts to keep things moving while I was on leave. Thank you.
Further comments? Okay. Seeing no old business, new business, or other business, I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections?
I had one comment. I don't know if the synopsis is official, but at the top there's a typo saying I was absent when it was actually Mr. Meeks who was absent.
It's better for my reputation to be thought of as here.
Okay.
So where the minutes have you absent?
Any amendments to the minutes?
None.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
I move that we approve the minutes for August 19th as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you may abstain.
Abstain,
And
wasn't here.
Mr. Meeks may abstain.
No, we have second record that you weren't there.
All right, so I will move to adjournment. All those in favor of adjourning?
Motion to adjourn. Second. I can't second it. You know what I
The
mean.
meeting is adjourned.
All right.